Hello everybody, welcome back to Book Bar and welcome to another video. Today we are doing my July mid-month wrap-up. I will be talking about the 14 books that I read from the 1st to the 14th of July. And so if this is your first time watching a wrap-up of mine, I go in order of how I completed them, so it's not necessarily the order of how I started them, but some books I finish faster than others. So also, if you know, I started a TBR game this month. I'll link the video up here. But it's TBR Uno, and so I had prompts, and I've completed a lot of them. There's still a couple that I haven't, but I'll tell you when I get. But I had Gifted, Random Number Generator, a new release, My Mom Picks, a sports romance, recently hauled, and a 12 books from 12 friends. But yeah, so we're just gonna go ahead and get right on into this, starting with the first book that I finished this month, which was The Consequence of Falling by Claire Contreras. I forgot to grab my notebook, but this is a contemporary romance between like rival co-workers, who it kind of, so Nathaniel was Presley's dad's driver, and they ended up so they kind of were antagonistic towards each other at the beginning. I think he was like 18 and she was 15, so it's not really an age gap, and it's not, and they don't even get together till she's like way in her 20s. Like she got whole married and everything before, but I did read this for a vlog where I read new releases, was collab with Tori from Novel Life. I will link the video up here. But yeah, I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was so fantastic. The third act conflict made sense, and I really enjoyed it. Then the next book that I finished was 5 Rounds by Nikki Castle. Again, I read this for the vlog where I read new to me authors. I read this because it was a Tori fave. But this is Remy and Tristan, and they are enemies. Tristan is Remy's best friend Jax's roommate, and Remy had just gotten evicted from her where she was living, and she needs somewhere to live for a couple weeks till her new apartment is available. And Jax is like, oh, well, I'm actually going to be gone for a couple weeks. You can come stay with me. You can come stay at my house. And so her and Tristan end up being roommates for a couple weeks. So it's forced proximity. It is a sports romance, so I counted this for my sports romance prompt. Because Tristan wants to be an MMA fighter, and Remy works out at the gym, the MMA gym, with them all the time. But yeah, it was forced proximity, hate to love, fantastic. I gave 5 stars. Then the next book that I read was The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea, again, for the vlog. This is another hate-ish to love rock star, slow burn, ex's brother on vacation. Fantastic. Josh and Drew. Drew is a pop star, and she kind of hates her life. Like, she really wants to write her own songs, but they don't think that that's right for her. Like, her management and everything doesn't think that's right for her. And Josh is a doctor working in a like war-torn country, and they go on a trip to Hawaii with Josh's family. Drew's invited by her ex-boyfriend Six, who is Josh's brother, to kind of try to rekindle their relationship. And she ends up realizing that he's not the man that she should be with, and she falls in love with his brother Josh. It is beautiful. There were a couple things that just bothered me, so I gave it 4.5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it, and I would definitely suggest picking it up. Then the next book that I finished was Out of the Corner, which is a nonfiction memoir about Jennifer Grey's life. I was hoping there would be more Dirty Dancing talk, because Dirty Dancing is my favorite movie of all time. But it really was just more about Jennifer Grey's life and everything that she went through from when she was little, growing up with parents who were actors, and everything in her whole life, even up till, you know, going through her time on Dancing with the Stars and her recent divorce and like all that stuff. So it was nonfiction. I gave 5 stars. I don't generally give memoirs lower than 5 stars, because how can I tell someone that their lived moments are less than? So I really enjoyed it. Then the next book that I finished was Ignite by Melanie Harlow, and I had this as my mom pick. I sent her like 4 or 5 summer options, and she picked this one. This is a small town, single parent, age gap, grumpy sunshine. He's a firefighter romance. They live next door. He moves in next door to her, and he has 2 little girls who instantly like take a liking to, so it's Dex and Winnie, and the little girls end up taking like a liking to Winnie and invite her to all this stuff. So they end up spending a lot of time together, and they realize that they are interested in each other, and they fall in love. And I have 4.5 stars because the 3rd act conflict didn't have to go as far as it did. So that bugged me. Then I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And this was gifted to me, so that's what I read this for. And plus I've been wanting to read it. And this is Alex and Poppy, and they are friends. They meet in the first day of college, and they end up actually being from like the same town, but he's from like east and she's from west, or opposite. So they're from like very similar towns, and the next, like, so they meet the first day of school, and then they don't talk, and like at the end of the school year, they decide they're going to drive back together to their hometown, and they decide on that they're going to then spend every summer together, and they go, or at least they go on a vacation every summer until 2 years ago something happened, and you're trying to figure out what happened. And I figured it out pretty early on what had happened. But yeah, it's friends to lovers. It spans multiple years, but it was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then I read A Caribbean Heiress in Paris. This was my new release. This is Luce and Evan, I think is his name. It's a marriage of convenience. Louisa. She owns a run company and in the Dominican, and goes to this like conference basically in Paris, and she meets a whiskey or rum, I don't remember, or not rum, whiskey I think, or scotch. She meets a whiskey manufacturer, and she wants to have full control of her company, but she has like a proprietor, but if she has a husband, then she wouldn't need one. So, and Evan really wants to take control of stuff from his father, and he needs to get married to do this. So he asks Luz to enter into a marriage of convenience. This book was fantastic. It dragged on a little long in the middle, so I gave it 4.5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it, and it was very different than most historicals, and I had a great time. Then I read A King So Cold by Ella Fields. This is a fantasy romance. It's kind of a love triangle, but basically Audra, who is the queen, she has to exile her husband because he did some stuff. And so she exiled him, and then she finds out that he's about to get remarried, and she's like, no, that won't do. So she brings him back and tries to force him to remember, but then she decides she doesn't actually love him anymore, and she's possibly falling in love with Zadakis. And yeah, just all sorts of craziness goes on. It was a little slow at parts, but I am excited to read the second book. But it was good. I gave it 4 stars. It was a different fantasy romance. It was pretty short, and it could be read as a standalone. You don't have to read the second book. I think the second book continues their story, but they are together at the end of this, and yeah. So I think I don't necessarily need to read the next book, but I will just because I'll want to know. But I'm not it's not one that ends on a cliffhanger where I need to know what happened. Then I read Blindsided by Amy Dawes. This is another sports romance, soccer or football because it's in Europe. Friends to lovers. It has the teach me trope, which is one of my favorite tropes. So basically, Freya is a virgin, which I don't always love the virgin heroine, but whatever. She's a curvy girl, and she's best friends with Mac, who is a soccer star. And they're kind of the only 2 single people in their friend group. All their friends are, because this takes place in the Harris Brothers world. And I haven't read any of the other books, but I probably will. But so everyone's all coupled up. except for the two of them. And they're at a party and they're playing Never Have I Ever. And Freya decides instead of doing Never Have I Ever, she's doing Never Have I. And she drinks for every single thing. And she has no idea what half these things mean. And eventually she ends up having to explain to Mac that she's a virgin. And they decide to enter into a friends with benefits situation where he teaches her all about things revolving around sex and all of that. And it was, I actually cried multiple times. Like, there were heartbreaking moments. So I could give this book no less than 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Call of Booty by Anastasia Austin. This was a total impulse read. I was on Bree from In Love and Words Sprints on her channel. And someone else was talking about this book, Call of Booty, because it had a virgin hero. And so we all just kind of decided to read it on these sprints. It's a novella, 111 pages. It has like a fake date. There's they go on a fake date. There's a virgin hero, sister's best friend, forced proximity because they have to live together. Novella. It was shockingly a slow burn. So Josh has kind of always been in love with his sister's best friend, Gwen. And Josh ends up having to stay with Gwen and his sister. And Gwen and him kind of have like this fun banter, and it ends up turning into a little bit more. And so yeah, there was one big section where they like fat shamed, and that was really annoying. Like, if they would have taken that out, it probably would have been perfect. But they did talk about, like, they kind of fat shamed Josh. And so I gave this 3.5 stars. It was fun. It was an easy, quick read. If you do not it was great. It would have been great had they not had the fat shaming. Then I read Inevitable Conclusions by Christina C. Jones. This is a black love, childhood friends, 2 lovers. They hook up on the regular, except for when they are in serious relationships. They always end up going back to each other, and then they'll get in relationships and they stop and they'll still remain friends, but their relationships always kind of fizzle out because everyone realizes that they are truly meant to be. They are an inevitable conclusion. And yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was upset with the fact that, it wasn't actually cheating because they were never with anyone else. They both slept with other people, and it's like, why? I hate when that happens in books. I know it happens in real life, but I hate when it happens in books. Like, I don't want to hear about them sleeping with other people. I just want the main couple to have sex. I don't need them to have relations outside of that. So that knocked down 0.5 star. I gave 4.5 stars. It was still really good. Then I read For the Boys by Amanda Chaperone. She is an author on Instagram that I follow. And it's a sports romance, cinnamon roll hero, slow burn. Brent Jean is a hockey player, and he plays for the Detroit Warriors. And he has seen Berkeley Daniels out at this one bar. And he's always kind of been interested in her. And one night he sees a guy putting date rape drugs into some drinks, and he figures out that Berkeley was one that was date raped, and he and his friends help her and her friends get home, or they don't get home, but he puts them up in a hotel, leaves them there, tells everyone, I'm not going to do anything, you can follow me up there, I'm not going to do anything, I really just want to make sure that they're safe, I don't know where they live, they don't have IDs, I just want them to be safe. So then a couple months later, he follows her on Instagram, slides into her DMs, and a relationship forms from there. And yeah, the third act conflict happened really late, and there were a few things that were not worded all that great, and were had racial undertones. So I had to knock it down. It was a 4-star. I still really had a great time with it. But do be aware of those issues going in. But it was still really fun. Minus that, there was only really, one line that I was did that really need to be in this book? But it was still a good book. Minus that, I don't know that the author was necessarily meaning to make it sound that way, but just in my mind, it stuck out. And the third act conflict happened really, really late. And yeah, so I gave 4 stars. It was fun. I had a good time. I always love a good hockey romance. And this one actually had a lot about the sport. Like, there was actual, like, and it is written in third person, which is kind of annoying, but it's fine. But there were, like, moments where, like, it was describing what was happening on the ice. And I do appreciate that in a sports romance, because a lot of times the sports romance is just like, oh, they're an athlete. But it doesn't talk about what they do on the field or at practices and games and all that. So it did have that, which was pretty great. Then I read the Consolation and Conviction Duet by Corinne Michaels. It is a love triangle that I heard from Shane at That Tall Book Girl. She talked about it, and it was free on Audible Plus, and so I listened to it. Basically, Natalie is her husband, Aaron. Her husband, Aaron, is out on a mission. He's a former Navy SEAL, but now he's just, like, does contracts with a company. He's out on a mission, and she finds out that he is no longer alive. And she breaks down, like, she ends up, like, breaking down and kind of not really living. And then a couple months later, his best friend Liam comes and, like, moves to Virginia, and they start to form a bond, and he forms a bond with her daughter, and they start to fall in love with each other. And it turns out that Aaron is not actually dead. So they had to go through all, she had to decide who she was going to pick. So I gave the first one 4 stars, and I'm giving the second one 4 stars also. I did not like that the author made it very easy to hate the person she didn't choose. There were things that happened that you're like, it made it very easy to root for one hero instead of rooting for them both and, like, not knowing who she's going to pick. It made it very easy to hate one of them, which is not great. But I still had a great time. I enjoyed them. 4 stars probably, and then 4.5 stars, I think. I don't know. But yeah, I had a great time. So those are the 14 books that I have read so far this month. Hopefully I keep up my momentum. But yeah, so I've completed my recently hauled, my sports romance, my mom chooses, my new release, and my gifted. And I said it was not my recently hauled. Sorry, I have not completed that one. And my gifted. So I have completed 4 of my 7 prompts, which, that's not bad. So I have 3 more I got to get done in the second half of the month. And I do already know, I have my books picked out for these. I just have to get to them. But yeah, that is all I have for now. Let me know down in the comments if you read any of these books, or and me talking about any of these made you want to pick them up. They were all great. I had nothing less than a 3.5 star. Just Call of Booty with 3.5. But yeah, I had a great reading first half of the month. Hopefully it stays in the second half. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps me out. I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!